Hey everyone, welcome to this tutorial on Je Te Veux by Marcel Dadi. First, the usual stuff. The full lesson is split up into several parts and only the first part will be released on YouTube. For full access, you can check out my website or my Patreon page. Both offer different perks at different pricing points, so there should be something for everyone. If you want the tab and notation file, then do head over to the website, look up the song and click on the music notes icon. That way you'll get a 20% discount. No account or login is necessary to do this. It's almost shameful it took this long, but today we are finally looking at a song by the late great Marcel Dadi. The song title, Je Te Veux, is French and translates roughly to I want you, expressed with clear romantic intent. But for younger players, this might not be a familiar name, so first a bit of background. Marcel Dadi had roots in France and Tunisia, but he quickly gained an international reputation in the fingerstyle community. In his era, the 80s and the 90s, he was one of the most well-known fingerstyle players, and he became good friends with other legends like Chet Atkins. Much like Chet, Marcel's career in fingerstyle guitar was so successful that he became a well-known and respected name in France, even with people who weren't into guitar playing at all. Recognizing his dedication to the art of guitar, Chet Atkins gave Marcel Dadi the now prestigious CGP award. And as far as I know, Marcel was the only non-American player to receive this honor. I also want to quickly send out some thanks to Jacques Stotsam, a fellow Belgian and an absolute fingerstyle pioneer, who confirmed this information. The info isn't easily found online, but Jacques played with Marcel often and he confirmed the story right away. But in 1996, at the age of 44, Marcel's career was tragically cut short. After being honored in the Country Music Hall of Fame in Nashville, he boarded a flight back home to France. This flight, TWA Flight 800, exploded off the coast of Long Island, leaving no survivors. I'll do my best to pay homage to the man by not leaving a stone unturned when explaining this song. Now, I only heard this particular song for the first time a few weeks ago when it came in as a request, and I decided to do a lesson on it after listening to it for just 8 bars. The song has a certain melancholic quality that echoes some of the French chansons I used to hear on the radio while growing up here in Europe. But in terms of technique, it is a unique piece of work. You can play this entire song by only using the thumb and index finger in the picking hand, while still getting a bass groove, a melody line, and a percussive part going at the same time. And while it is possible to use more fingers, using only 2 is actually the easiest way to play the song. This first part goes over the chords, the basic 2-digit picking technique, and the first 4 bars of the verse. Once the basic picking technique clicks, it's possible more advanced players won't even need the rest of the tutorial video. But, as usual, I will take my time and go over each and every part. Ready? Let's go. Okay, let's get this lesson started then. The guitar is in standard tuning and there are no extras needed. No capo, no thumb pick, no flat pick, just plain fingers. And as you will see, you'll only need a few of those fingers on the picking hand. I went for my trusty old Martin J40 with really clear position markings, so you can see what I'm doing. We're going to be moving up and down the neck quite a bit, but Mr. Dadi plays this on a big jazz box guitar, like a Gretsch type of model. I practiced it for a long time on my nylon string. It sounds fine as well. You can basically play this song on whatever guitar you like. That being said, I'm going to dive into the first verse. There is no intro, so we're diving straight into the heart of the fun. This is what it sounds like. that is something that I already consider to be verse 2 or a small variation on the verse. So we're going to take a look at the first 12 bars. It's a great melody. It's something special, that melody so far down low on the guitar. Most of the melody is on the A string and on the low D string before it opens up in the second part of the chorus with the higher pitched sounding melody notes. Let's go over the chords first, because there are a few sort of peculiar or very specific things going on. Pinky on the 6th fret on the D string, and then, this is a bit of a stretch, the index finger on the 2nd fret on the A string, together with an open E string. This is just an E major chord. The stretch isn't that bad, for lack of a better word. It's just, this would be playing in position, one finger for each fret. You're basically stretching up the pinky one fret. Make sure you have the thumb down low, the wrist down low, and then reaching. This sort of chord voicing shouldn't be that much of an issue. Then all of the action is mostly in the index finger. So this is E. Then we move that index finger up to the 3rd fret, giving you E augmented, still with a low E string and the pinky on the 6th fret. Then we move the index finger up to the 4th fret, giving you E6, and then adding the middle finger on the 5th fret, all on the A string to give you E dominant. So E, augmented, 6, dominant 7th, and then we move to a standard A bar chord on the 5th fret. You don't actually right away need the full bar, but later on in the song you will, so a bar across all 6 strings on the 5th fret. Ring finger, pinky on the 7th fret on the A string and D string, and the middle finger on the 6th fret on the G string. That is the next chord, and then we move down in a sequence. You're going to be reusing several of the chord voicings I'm showing you now. Then you move down to what looks like a C dominant chord shape, but on the 4th fret with the index finger. So you have ring finger 6th fret on the A string, middle finger 5th fret on the D string, pinky 6th fret on the G string, and index finger 4th fret on the B string. Now this would be the standard, in this case E flat or D sharp dominant 7, but we're going to move the ring finger to the low E string. So this is E flat dominant 7 with B flat in the bass. That chord is going to move over to a G sharp minor chord shape, just a full bar across all 6 strings. Ring finger pinky on the 6th fret on the A string and the D string. And then we're going to jump down 1 fret to the 3rd fret with the index finger to D6, pinky 5th fret on the A string, middle finger 4th fret on the D string, ring finger 4th fret on the G string, and index finger 3rd fret on the B string. So you move from E flat dominant or D sharp dominant to G sharp minor to D6. And then from that point you repeat the exact same thing 2 frets down. Then we move over to C sharp dominant 7 to F sharp minor and then to C6. So it's basically the exact same chord movement, dominant to minor to 6, dominant to minor to 6, and then again to a dominant chord, but now because of the open strings the voicing does look a little bit different. I think Marcel Dadi uses the ring finger low E string 2nd fret, middle finger 1st fret on the D string, pinky 2nd fret on the G string, and he then hammers on with the index finger to the 1st fret on the B string. It's also possible to switch around the index finger and the middle finger, specifically to what feels easier for you. Doesn't make that much of a difference afterwards. And then finally we move to an E sus4 chord, middle finger, ring finger, pinky all on the 2nd fret on the A string, D string and G string, to E major, removing the pinky, putting down the index finger on the 1st fret on the G string, and then moving to E dominant, removing the ring finger for an E dominant chord. And those are the chord shapes for the first verse. You're going to be reusing these chord shapes all throughout the song, so put in a little bit of work to get all of the fingerings exactly right. It will pay off if you learn to play the rest of the tune. Now, in terms of technique, there is something very specific happening in this song. You're only going to use, for 99.9% of the song, the thumb and the index finger in the picking hand. The middle finger, as far as I can remember by heart, is only used for 2 different chords. Everything else, thumb and index, nothing else. And that is including that little percussive technique that you hear all throughout the song. So what is happening? I'm going to put the magnet on the guitar to explain this so you can see what is happening in the picking hand. So, and in this recording setup, it's almost inevitable that I'm going to hit the microphones at some point. I'll try and keep it down to a minimum. So what happens? On the first beat, you use the thumb to play the bass note. 1, 2. On the second beat, you use the fingernail of the index finger to brush across the strings. Sometimes it's just dead strings, muted to give you that click. Sometimes you're going to have to produce a note using that strum with the fingernail. Then, right after that, 2 more bass notes. 1, 2, 3. Always the same timing. 1, 2, 3. 4, and back to the strum. And this runs all the way through the song. It basically never stops apart from one single bar. So always 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Always thumb and index finger, and that is going to be 99% of the song. Let me get rid of the magnet and we'll dive into the first melody section. So you start with that big E chord, 2nd fret, the 6th fret, and you plug the low E string and the A string at the same time. As already stated, it's always index finger for the melody notes. I will mention it when you have to use the middle finger, it will only be 1 or 2 times. So E string and A string at the same time, brush across the strings, and then E string and D string at the same time with the pinky on the 6th fret. 1, 2, 3. You plug both the low E string and the D string 2 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right after those 2 melody notes on the D string, again, index finger plugs the A string. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then right away after that, another percussive strum. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. In front of the beat, the index finger plugs the A string, while the index finger here moves up to the 3rd fret. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Bass note on the beat, then you drop the pinky and you play the middle finger or use the middle finger on the 4th fret on the D string. You're going to add the pinky back to the 6th fret and then briefly move it up to the 7th fret. It's basically the same stretch as here, 6th fret and 2nd fret at the same time, and now it's 7th fret and 3rd fret. That is the 2nd bar. And now, in this case, you're going to have to play that pinky on the 6th fret by means of that strum with the index finger. 1, 2, see? And you just try to put down the pinky mutes everything underneath that D string, is basically dead strings, and you try to get that note out just by strumming down with the index finger. And right after that, the index finger picks back up as the pinky moves to the 7th fret. Again, the same bass part, you pick the 7th fret together with the bass note, 1 more bass note, and the pinky drops back down to the 6th fret, pluck, and another percussive click. And as you perform that strum down on the 4th beat, you try to get that 4th fret to ring out at the same time. Really slowly, those 2 notes, strum, strum. And sometimes that lower string that you're still pressing down on will sound out as well. Don't worry about that. That kind of variation is also present whenever Marcel Dadi plays this song. So that full bar, that second bar, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then maybe the trickiest part of all is getting the pinky to the 7th fret on the A string. Now, when you do this, you can let go of the other fingers and just play that 7th fret all by itself, and then drop down the index finger on the 4th fret on the A string. So there's no need to hold this down. You can let go of everything, just play the 7th fret, then move over to the next chord. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Then you move over to a small bar. Index finger goes across the A string and the D string on the 4th fret. You pluck the D string and the E string at the same time, and you hammer on with the ring finger to the 6th fret. And this one is a lot easier than that second bar, hammering on the first beat, 2 exact 8th notes, 1 and 2, the percussive click, repick the same melody notes, again with those 2 bass notes underneath, 1 and 2 and 3. See, so always those 2 bass notes on 2 and 3. Repick the A string, just holding down the 4th fret, another percussive strum, and then you drop down the middle finger on the 5th fret in front of the beat before another open E string. Back to the low E string. Let me count along one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Basically the same move up that we played before, 4th fret, 6th fret, 7th fret. Now without the stretch, it's a little bit easier to play. So that 5th fret rings out from across the bar line from the 3rd bar. 1, 2. So you're still holding down the index finger on the 4th fret. 1, 2, 3. Again, as you play that 7th fret, 2 open E strings underneath that. Again, as you move back down the scale, you repick the 6th fret, going up, and the 4th fret has to ring out by means of a strum with the index finger. And then, despite the fact that you're holding it down with the middle finger, you're going to play an open D string, it's the same note, but that open D string is going to give you the room to move over to the A chord. So one more time, that last bar, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, to the A chord. Now, this is tricky in the beginning, but I can assure you one thing, it is a trick. It is something that once that movement in the picking hand clicks, those bass notes, the timing in between the bass notes and the percussive strum, it does click all of a sudden and it will work. It's not something that gradually improves over time. All of a sudden you will be able to do it, and you'll sort of wonder, now, why was it difficult 5 minutes ago? So just stick to this, and once that movement starts taking care of itself, it will come quicker than you imagine. So let me play those first 4 bars one more time, all the way through, really slowly. How we move into the next section. The verse starts on the A chord. Now make sure you're 100% comfortable with those first 4 bars, because the index finger mostly moves between those 2 strings, the A string and the D string. And I'm going to cut the first part right here, because getting the picking technique down is very important. Before continuing with the next section, take your time, make sure the picking motion feels loose and relaxed. And for everyone who's watching on YouTube, this is the time to switch over to Patreon or the website. I'll see you there.